Welcome to the Positive Sports Podcast. I'll be your host this evening, Ed Montana. Unfortunately, I have no co-pilot today. Alex is out tending to some personal business. He's been really busy. Hey, sometimes your personal lives kind of take over. You got to take care of what you got to take care of. So, he will be missed, but he will be back. He's an integral part of the show. And as always, we have a good time doing it. But tonight, you get Positive Sports Podcast Light, the dietary version, just me. So I hope y'all enjoy. Speaking of enjoy, I hope you guys go back and watch episode 20 of the Positive Sports Podcast, where we had a special guest, Juan the Kraken Adams, an MMA fighter who will be on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series on July 31st on UFC Fight Pass. He'll be fighting a gentleman by the name of Sean Teed for a spot on the UFC roster. So it's a big deal for him. He was a lot of fun to talk to, very insightful, very smart, very funny. We had a really good time talking to him. I hope you guys go back and check him out. You can always catch our shows on YouTube, iTunes, Podbean, Google Play, whatever works for you. Just make sure you go out and catch it, subscribe, like, make comments, whatever. Speaking of comments, if you want to get a hold of the show, if you want to reach out to the show and share your thoughts with us, feel free to do so at positivesports10@gmail.com. That's our email address, positivesports10@gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of Alex directly, you can reach out to him on Twitter at Brooklyn Gaucho. And if you want to reach out to me on Twitter, ask me any questions you want, or comment on today's show or any other episode, please feel free to do so at eMontana21. So, without much further ado, let's get into a little positive sports talk. The big story of the week, obviously, was the finale of the NBA Finals. The Warriors swept the Cavs. I don't think there were very many people that gave the Cavs much of a shot, and really after Game 1, it really went downhill for them. It's really unfortunate. We really didn't get much of a series. Look, when you have the amount of superstars that the Warriors have, it's tough sledding for anyone against them. And the Cavs just didn't have it. It's LeBron James and the rest of those guys are just not at the same level. LeBron James, I thought, did a fantastic job getting him to that point. He played great during the finals. But at the end of the day, when you three and a half superstars or however many the Warriors have to LeBron's one, it's just too much to handle. The series was really kind of a blowout. The first game was close. Obviously went into overtime after the J.R. Smith gaffe with the rebound on the free throw. But really after that, it wasn't much of a series. Game 2 wasn't much of a game. Game 3 was pretty close for a while, but the Warriors ended up running away with it. And Game 4, the Cavs just didn't show up. The Cavs, I think, really mailed it in after Game 3. Some would say even after Game 1. It's really unfortunate. We didn't get much of a spectacle for the finals. And look, the Warriors are no joke. I mean, they are building themselves quite a nice dynasty. They are, have won 3 of the last 4 NBA finals, and they are really a fantastic basketball team with future Hall of Famers really throughout that lineup, and Kevin Durant and Steph Curry. Heck, Klay Thompson and Draymond Green are no joke, and it's a good team. And Steve Kerr has done a masterful job with them. He really knows how to push the right buttons, and he's doing a fantastic job with them. He really is. On the other side, the Cavs, we come to find out after the series that LeBron was playing with a hurt hand, a self-inflicted injury, as he called it, from punching a whiteboard or something to that effect after Game 1. Certainly understandable. His frustrations after Game 1 had to be quite high. I know several Cleveland fans, on Twitter were exasperated at the way that game ended and just how it all shook out. And I really feel for Cleveland fans because, look, 4 years in a row they've made it to the finals. 4 years in a row they've had to face the Warriors. And really every single year the Warriors have been favored, have been thought to be a better team. And 3 out of 4 times they prevailed. It's got to be tough for LeBron. It's just he needs more help. I don't know what all happened exactly with Kyrie Irving to get him shipped out of there for Isaiah Thomas, which ended up being a nothing because then they traded Isaiah Thomas during the season. The overhaul of that roster was really of no consequence as far as getting LeBron the help he needed to make it through a grueling playoff series and eventually to the finals against the best team in the league. I thought LeBron did an incredible job getting them there. My hat's off to them, to him specifically. But at the end of the day, it was just too much for him. And it's like I said earlier, 3.5, 4 stars, however many stars the Warriors have to his 1. It's an immensely uphill battle, and I think LeBron did as much as he could do, and I actually think there's no shame in getting swept by that team considering the talent that he had around him. I know that probably doesn't provide much solace, but what are you going to do? The other finals that we had this week, actually we had several. This is kind of a fun time of the year where there's a lot of finals going on. The other final that we had was the Washington Capitals. After many, many years, they finally win the Stanley Cup over the Vegas Golden Knights. Hats off to the Vegas Golden Knights. They started their year with the Vegas shooting, actually, and really kind of galvanized an expansion team to take them all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. Quite an achievement for that bunch. But the Washington Capitals were too much. They finally got clutch goaltending. Holtby was just fantastic throughout the playoffs, and in the Stanley Cup Finals really stepped it up a notch, except for Game 1. Game 1 was nuts. It was a game that Washington won 6-4, and it was a good old hockey slugfest, not in terms of fights, but in terms of goals. It was a lot of fun to watch. If you didn't catch that, you missed a heck of a game. But really after that, Holtby really shut down the Vegas Golden Knights, and really the Caps just did a great job throughout. Ovechkin has been in the league for several years. He's been a very prolific scorer throughout his career, and really hadn't even really gotten close. Had never made it to the Stanley Cup Finals before, and finally got his team to the Stanley Cup and won. Let me tell you, there's nothing better in sports. To me, there's no better moment in sports than that instant when a team crowns themselves champion. When they get the last out in the World Series. When the buzzer hits 0 in basketball or football or hockey. There's nothing like it. To see those grown men become little kids jumping up and down on each other, there's nothing like it. And quite frankly, I think in hockey it's the best. And I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because they start throwing all of their equipment as they go out to hug the goaltender, and they all pile on the goaltender, and really they congregate right there. For some reason, that's where it has to happen. The goalie doesn't skate out. He just kind of stands there, raises his arms, and everyone comes to join him, and you see sticks and gloves flying everywhere. It gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. I absolutely love it. To me, it is the highlight of the season. The second highlight is the moment the captain, and I always think it should be a player, so I think the NBA did it wrong, but when the captain gets the trophy, it makes the hair on my arm stand up just thinking about it. That picture of Gary Bettman handing the trophy over to Ovechkin, and he still has his hands on it, and he starts shaking it, it's the best moment in sports. There's nothing like it. To see that joy, to know that all of that sacrifice and all of that hard work for those 25 guys comes to the realization of winning the Stanley Cup, there's nothing like it. The NBA handed it to the owner of the Warriors, who didn't dribble one basketball, didn't make one shot, didn't coach one play, didn't do anything. They just spent the money. I think that's the wrong way to do it. I think you should hand it to the players. I really do. You should hand it to a captain and give it to those guys. Those guys put in the hard work, the physical and mental rigor to go through the season, to go through the playoffs, to get to that point, to crown themselves the best in their discipline for that year. They should get the trophy. So, my humble opinion, give it to a player, give it to the captain, and let the players have it. The owners just wrote some checks. Don't get me wrong, that's great. But at the end of the day, the lion's share of the work is done by the players. Give it to a player. So, hats off to the Washington Capitals. My guess is the party still hasn't stopped. I've seen pictures of Ovechkin being dunked into the top of the Stanley Cup so he could drink champagne out of it. They're going to have a good old time this summer celebrating with the Stanley Cup, and hats off to them. They deserve it. Going on, more championships. Congratulations to the Florida State Seminoles softball team who beat the Washington Huskies in the Women's College World Series. Like I said, this time of year is great. You got all kinds of finals and championships going on. And the Florida State Seminoles played a fantastic series. A Washington team that really was, their pitching was just buzzsawing the competition throughout the Women's College World Series. They came up against Florida State, and Florida State said, not here. We're gonna hit. And they really crushed them in the second game and deserved to win the championship. So hats off to them. That was fantastic to watch as well. There was one play on a bunt that got popped up, and this girl the third baseman just came flashing by and caught it on a dive, and then rifled the ball to first to double up the player coming off of first. Really fantastic stuff. I really enjoy the women's softball stuff. I know we don't see a whole lot of it during the year, but it is a lot of fun to watch. What other championships do we have? We had the last 2 weeks, we've had the French Open. Congratulations to Simona Halep from Romania, I believe, on the women's side. She had been to 2, maybe 3 Grand Slam finals and was never able to close the deal. She was able to do so this past weekend. She did a fantastic job against Sloane Stephens, who is progressively getting closer and closer, I think, to a Grand Slam championship. She seems to be nudging her way from quarterfinals to semifinals to now a final on what is probably not her favorite surface, the red clay of Roland Garros at the French Open, and yet she still made it to the final. She won the first set off Simona, but after that, Simona really clamped down, and you could see in the second set, you could see her really turning the screws, long volley after long volley, making Sloane Stephens go from one side of the court to the other, and really ran her ragged, and eventually took that set from her, and then pretty easily took the third set from her. On the men's side, you'll never guess who won the French Open. Rafael Nadal. It's something about the red clay of Roland Garros that is tailor-made for him. I mean, he absolutely buzzsawed through the field over these last 2 weeks. I guess buzzsawed is my new word today. Word of the day, folks. Buzzsawed. That's buzzsawed. Okay, enough of the dictionary lesson. Rafael Nadal really just creamed everyone they put in front of him. I don't know how many sets he lost, to be honest, but I would dare to say it probably wasn't much more than one, if that. In the semis, he played Juan Del Potro, who was playing really well, and he beat the brakes off of him. Got to the finals against Dominic Thiem, who was really having a really good tournament. He was also buzzing his way through and doing quite well. And he was no match for Nadal this morning. Nadal just went right through him like a hot knife through butter. So congratulations to him as well. There's numerous championships going on in the world of track and field. The NCAA college track championships were this weekend. I didn't catch all of those results, so I can't give those to you. But hats off to people that run really fast and throw spears and rocks and all that neat stuff. I love the track and field events. I think it's a lot of fun. The college world, the baseball College World Series is going on. The Super Regionals are going on this weekend. So next week we will have the College World Series, and that will take care of that on that side of things. And always looking forward to that. The Major League Draft. If you watch the College World Series, you'll see a lot of good players that you will see playing in the big leagues one day. The draft happened this week, and a lot of them were drafted by major league teams. In all fairness, they do have 40 rounds for 30 teams. It's a big draft. So But I didn't get drafted, so it is an accomplishment. What else? What else? What else? I guess now we can get into, well, two things, right? The speculation about LeBron and where he's going to go this summer. But before we get into that, the Brian Colangelo thing with the Sixers. So he got busted with some burner Twitter accounts where he was making some disparaging comments about his own players on the 76ers, as well as making comments about injuries and stuff, medical situations, which you're kind of not allowed to do. So he got in a whole heap of trouble. Look, I don't know why guys do this. The way technology works today, you're going to get caught. I mean, I don't understand. Like, what do you think is going to happen here? You know? I mean, you're going to get caught. Don't do it. It's stupid. How does that help you do your job better? How does that help the organization you're involved with? It's just silly. It's silly. I don't understand why he would do that. And quite frankly, with the Sixers, my understanding is the Sixers knew right away that he was busted dead to rights, that he had been doing this, and it took them a week to fire him. What are you waiting for? Get rid of the guy. I mean, if he's that stupid, or if he's going to do stuff that's that dumb, you don't want to run your organization. It's crazy. And, you know, this offseason's a big deal for the Sixers. They're a young team. They may look to make a move with some of those young pieces to bring in some veteran talent and maybe even go after LeBron. You can't have this guy messing around in the organization, disparaging his players, releasing medical information. You can't have it. What took them so long? I don't know. I guess now it kind of doesn't matter because they did the right thing. They got rid of him, which is what they needed to do. But I don't understand what the delay was. But that's the end of him. And quite frankly, that's not just the end of him with the Sixers. My guess is that's the end of him for good. I don't think we'll see him in the NBA anymore. And quite frankly, good riddance. If he didn't actually do anything wrong, then he shouldn't get a job for just being a bozo. I mean, it's just dumb. But, you know, whatever. Goodbye. So now we get into the summer of LeBron. Man, I don't know. I haven't seen the latest odds, but I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the Sixers are actually favored to get LeBron. So the situation with LeBron is he could opt out for free agency. But there is a catch, right? Because of the Larry Bird rule, the Cavs can offer him the most money and the most years. So the Cavs can offer him a 5-year deal. The rest of the league can only offer him a 4-year deal. And the Cavs can offer him a 5-year deal that averages out to $41 million a year. The rest of the league can only offer him $38 million. So basically, it's not a lot of money, right, in terms of per year, right? It's only $3 million per year. I say only $3 million as though I have, just $1 million jingling in my pocket, which I don't. But I mean, when you're talking about LeBron, he's made a lot of money already in his career, and he's not going to be hurting. It's not like he's going to go from $4 million down to $1 million. I mean, he's going to go from 41 to 38. It's just not that big a deal. And let's face it, 4 years from now, when he's hitting free agency again, he's going to get the same deal from someone else. I mean, he's not. I don't know how old he is at this point. But I think he by the end he'll be. I don't know. I guess I should look it up, right? But I mean, he's not going to be. Money is not the issue for LeBron James, right? And we all know that. He's 33. I guess 4 years from now he'd be 37. Maybe he'd be hard pressed to get a big contract like that, but maybe not. I mean, let's face it. He's LeBron James, and he keeps himself in great physical condition. And unless he comes across another whiteboard that he gets into a scuffle with, he's been pretty darn healthy as well. Where is he going to land? Man, I don't know. LeBron is kind of a tough read in this situation. I don't know. I mean, he really gets carte blanche to do to have a lot of say in the organization in Cleveland, which I think he likes, right? He can sway that to bring in people that he wants to play with, which I think is important to him. But I mean, he could also go somewhere and join up with some friends like he did before in Miami. Like I said, the popular pick is the Sixers. I'm not quite sure why. Maybe because they have all the young talent, and he would be a fantastic veteran addition to that team, right? Because he'd bring veteran leadership, playoff experience, and oh, by the way, he's still the best player on the planet, to a young team that is going to get better. I mean, I think we can all agree the Sixers are going to be a better basketball team next year than they were this year. They went through the playoffs, and I think they're going to grow from it. So they may move one of those pieces that don't quite fit, maybe Fultz, move him out and bring in LeBron. That would be a monster addition for them. And let's face it, wherever LeBron goes, they instantly become a contender to make it to the NBA Finals. It's just that simple. I haven't heard any rumblings about him going to Boston, but that would be quite the twist, right? LeBron, who I don't know if he got rid of, but Kyrie Irving leaves Cleveland to run his own show in Boston, and then Boston brings LeBron to help him run the show again. That would be quite quite an interesting situation. I don't think he's going to go there. The other popular places that people seem to be mentioning are San Antonio, which I could see that. I don't know what that would do with the Kawhi Leonard situation. I don't know if that would make him want to stay or go, but I know he has great affection for Greg Popovich, and I think that would make that a formidable duo. The problem with that is he'd have to play in the West, which it would almost, it would really put his streak of NBA Finals in jeopardy, because he'd have to go through the Warriors, he'd have to go through the Rockets. It would be a tough road to hoe over in the West, and I don't know that he wants to do that at 33. Let's face it, he just played every single game this season, every single game of the playoffs. He played more minutes than he played ever before. I don't think he wants to do that again. I'm sure he wants to play for quite a while. And so I don't think he can do too many more of these seasons. At 33, his body might start breaking down. I mean, he is in fantastic shape, but I don't think he wants to do that. And I think out West, it's a tougher road where he's probably going to have to play every game, although Popovich is very good about resting players and stuff like that. So that would be a very interesting scenario, and quite frankly, one that I think really puts a challenge to the whole Philadelphia thing, because, again, he loves Popovich, and what's not to love? Popovich is a mastermind coach, and he's a great guy, I think, to play for. So that could happen. There's some rumblings about Houston. I don't know that he would respect D'Antoni. I think that's what it boils down to. I don't think he'd have any respect for him. And Chris Paul and James Harden, that might be a tough way to, it might be tough for those guys to gel together. But I kind of thought I had the same thought when Chris Paul came over, just because James Harden is such a big figure in terms of shots and things like that. I thought, man, how's this going to work? And it worked out great. I mean, they had a franchise record in wins this year, and obviously adding LeBron is not going to hurt. The other team that I heard, which I think is kind of amusing, hey man, why not go to the Warriors? I mean, if you can't beat them, join them. Make your own all-star team. Honestly, if he joined the Warriors, the goal would have to be to go 82-0. I mean, you can't. What other goal could you possibly have, right? I mean, you could probably seriously give it a run of going 82-0, which would be just amazing. And then, go another 16-0 in the playoffs, go 98-0 in 1 year, and win the NBA championship. I don't know how many people would want to see that, but I think I would want to see it just out of morbid curiosity, I think that might make the Warriors the most hated franchise in the NBA, though, if that were to happen. Anyway, I'm sure we'll talk about this again. He has until June 29th to either accept his extension or however that works, or declare himself a free agency. So we've got Hey, today's only the 10th. We've still got almost 3 weeks to speculate about LeBron James and his whereabouts and where is he going to end up. Oh my goodness. So it'll be very interesting. I think it'll be a fun watch, to be honest. Let me take a little break here because when you're by yourself, man, the mouth tends to get a little dry. So I'm going to have a little swig of my favorite drink here, a little coffee. Love it. Love it. In case you're wondering, most people don't drink coffee at night. I drink coffee 24 hours a day. There's not a point in the day where I will not drink coffee. I don't care. I love it, and the caffeine doesn't do anything to me. I can have a cup of coffee right before I go to bed and sleep like a baby. I know, it's a little weird, but that's what happens when you drink coffee from the time you are 5 years old. So, thanks, Mom and Dad. I love it. So what I want to do today is a little something different. Now that we've talked a little bit about what's going on in sports and I don't have my partner in crime here, I'm going to go a little off the rails. I'm going to do a little World Cup preview. The biggest tournament in sports, the finale or the final piece of that tournament, kicks off this week. The World Cup in Russia, Russia 2018, the FIFA World Cup, men's soccer, for those of you who are not familiar. You heard me say it's the largest tournament in the world. That's because every single country is in this tournament. World Cup qualifying starts 2 years before we get to this point. 2 years before we get to the finals. Different parts of the world have different federations and they play amongst each other, and they, each federation gets to send X number of teams, and now we have the final 32 teams in Russia beginning this Thursday. So for the next month, you will have soccer at the highest level played, and it is fantastic stuff. The story about this World Cup, obviously, anytime you go to Russia, it's a story. The hooligans are pretty bad. Some of their laws are a little bit different than what we're accustomed to. So there's that angle and how it will be in Russia for spectators and fans, and really there is a certain amount of intrigue as to how that's going to work for visitors. So it is a little bit dicey. If you haven't read or heard anything about Russian hooliganism, I mean, it's as bad as the English hooliganism of the 70s, with the difference being that the hooligans in Russia are not just about soccer. They're about just beating the crap out of whoever. I mean, they'll beat up on tourists. They don't care. It can get pretty bad, and it's going to be an interesting side note to this tournament. With the world watching, how will they control that? I don't want to get political here, and I don't want to go into stuff like that because that's really not my thing, not our thing, not the show's thing. But I'm going to be very curious to see how they handle that and how it works out for spectators. The other interesting story about the 2018 World Cup is who's not here. There are some perennial powers that did not qualify. And then there are some smaller, I won't call them powers, but smaller countries that maybe you're not as aware of that consistently have been making the World Cup, have World Cup caliber players that play in Europe that also did not make it. And then, of course, there's, the elephant in the room. We didn't make it. We didn't make it. The U.S. didn't make it. We didn't make it. I'm still heartbroken about it. But when we couldn't beat Trinidad and Tobago way back when, a few months ago, our World Cup dreams ended there. And so we are not at the final tournament. I feel like the U.S. Soccer Federation is making some drastic changes to the program so that we can make it again in the future. I don't think we're far from making it, especially when they go up to 48 teams in a few years. But the fact of the matter is we will not be at Russia 2018. So the powers that I was discussing earlier that are not going to be at Russia 2018, Italy. Italy has won several World Cups, 3 I believe. They had been, I think, to every single World Cup since they started it in 1934. They are not going. Another one that is not going, that is a power, is the Netherlands. The Dutch have been very prominent in the World Cup. In the 70s, they had the Orange Machine, and they play total football, as they call it. They have been very, very good for very, very many years. Did not qualify for the World Cup. Another smaller team that has been very good in recent World Cups, Chile. Chile has real world-class players playing all over Europe, and they also failed to qualify. So, it's very interesting. We're going to have some new teams that we have not seen before, along with some traditional powers, and it should make for a very exciting month of soccer. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and break down the World Cup. I'm going to go ahead and go through all of the groups, give you who I think is going to advance out of the groups, and then, they have their round of 16, kind of like the Sweet 16 in basketball, and it's a bracket from there. And I will give you my predictions as to who will lift the gold trophy in mid-July in Russia. So, without any further ado, let's start with Group A. Group A is always the residence of the home team. The home team is always in Group A, in case you are wondering. So Russia is in Group A, along with Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Uruguay. It's an interesting group. The home teams tend to do well at the World Cup. Something about home cooking that really spells success for soccer players. And so I expect Russia to do well. I expect them to come out of the group stage. The really interesting thing here is going to be what's going to happen with Egypt. Now, Egypt has a player by the name of Salah, who plays for Liverpool, who hurt his shoulder pretty bad in the UEFA Champions League final a few weeks ago, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And he's going to play. He's there in Russia, and he's ready to go. But you have to wonder how that's going to affect him. The other thing, too, is he's had a phenomenal season, but he has played a lot of soccer in the last 10 months. Will he still have the gas to continue to go through the World Cup? Sometimes when you see guys really elevate their game during the soccer season on a World Cup year, when they get to the World Cup, they just seem to run out of steam, and I wonder if that might not happen to him. The other thing, too, is it's one thing playing with Liverpool, which has several good players, and it's another thing playing with Egypt, where you don't quite have the same caliber of players around you. And, in the case of Egypt, it's very much like the Cleveland Cavaliers. He is the LeBron James of the Egyptian national team. Can those other players rally around them? Can they defensively hold their shape and play well to handle a higher level and a more challenging scenario, which is what the World Cup is going to provide them? And they get no easy path, because their very first game is against Uruguay, and I think Uruguay will test them. Uruguay is a team that has been to several World Cups now in a row. They tend to do well at this tournament. They're a very unified team. They are very cohesive, even though they play on different teams around the world. It seems like they are one of the teams that they really gel well when they come together. I expect Uruguay to actually win this group. I expect Russia to come in second and advance as well. And Egypt will come close, but just miss out. The match to watch in this group is going to be the third match day for this group, Uruguay and Russia. And my guess is at that point it'll be to see who wins the group and who comes in second. If they're not careful, they could end up out. But I think those two will be battling it out for first and second. So it should be quite interesting. Then you have Group B. Group B has Portugal, Spain, Morocco, and Iran. Look, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because I think this is really one of the easiest groups to pick. Portugal and Spain are head and shoulders above Morocco and Iran. Portugal and Spain are going to advance. The match to watch is going to be, you guessed it, Portugal and Spain. And you get that right off the bat. Day two of the tournament, you get Portugal and Spain. It's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to watch that one. Spain has been playing at a very high level in these international tournaments over the last 10 years or so. Don't expect anything different this time around. They are an excellent soccer team. They come together very well. A lot of them play in La Liga in Spain. They know each other, so the cohesiveness is much easier for them than it is for other squads. They are very good. And Portugal, look, Portugal has, now, you want to talk about LeBron James of soccer? This might be it. Because they have, quite possibly, if not the best, the very, very close second in Cristiano Ronaldo. If you guys have not watched Cristiano Ronaldo play, and I'm sure you have, you got to tune in and watch this guy. He is speed personified. What the man does with the ball at his feet and the pace at which he runs and moves the ball around, he is fantastic. If you want to see something incredible, Google Cristiano Ronaldo bicycle kick goal that he scored a month ago or whatever against Juventus in the Champions League. It was phenomenal stuff. He is challenging for the best player in the world every single year for the last 6, 7, 8 years. He is the player to watch in this tournament. And the rest of that squad, I think, is starting to catch up. I think he's starting to get some more support. There are Portuguese players now playing further outside of Portugal, and they're starting to gel. So I think that it's going to be, that first match is going to be great, and it may set the tone for the rest of the tournament for both of these teams. I can't wait to watch it. As you can tell by the speed of my delivery here, I'm excited for this one. I can't wait to see it because I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup. But these two teams are going to advance. My pick, it's a tough one. But I'm going to pick Spain to come out first in this group and Portugal to come out second. And it makes a difference because you go into a different slot in the bracket and it can make a huge difference. I think Spain will come out first in the group and Portugal second. But God, people, do not sleep on that match on June 15th between Spain and Portugal. It is going to be a barn burner, to say the least. Moving on to Group C. Group C has France, Australia, Peru, and Denmark. This, to me, is one of the more wide open groups, and I had a very difficult time breaking it down. I had a very difficult time picking. It's tough. France is probably the most talented team in the group. If you look at their roster from 1 through 11, they're going to throw some big, heavy hitters at you. Pogba, who plays for Manchester United. Griezmann, who plays at Atletico Madrid. A really, really good squad. But except for 1998, man, they just seem to sometimes freeze on this big stage and don't come all the way through. And you can't sleep on any of these other teams in this group. So for France, you got to be ready to play under the bright lights because it is not going to be a cakewalk. Australia, not the most talented team that we will see in this tournament, but tough as nails. They will play from the opening whistle to the closing whistle, and they will play you at top speed as hard as they can. They will not give up. It does not matter what the score is. It does not matter if they get someone sent off. Nothing matters to them. They will play non-stop, and they will push the pace of the game. They don't win a lot, but man, people pay the price. And the very first game for France is against Australia. If they're not careful, Australia could ruin the tournament for them right then and there. Not necessarily by winning the game, but by simply wearing them out. They have to play, and then 5 days later, another game, and they just can't recover after playing a team like Australia. It happens over and over again. The Aussies are tough. Peru is another team. They're a very good team coached by an Argentinian and a very successful Argentine coach. So they have progressed quite a bit in the last few years. Now, the catch here is one of their star players was implicated in a doping violation and didn't get cleared for the World Cup up until I think about a week ago. So that may mess with their head a little bit, and it's going to be tough. Also, traditionally, teams from South America going all the way over to Europe, and especially Eastern Europe, they tend not to fare well. So I wonder if Peru, in their first experience over there, if they're really going to be up for the challenge. And then you have Denmark. And Denmark is another tough European team with players littered throughout the European leagues. They're a good squad. They're very, very structurally sound. They're not going to do anything fancy. But what they will do is they will be very sharp defensively. You will not get easy attacks on them. And if you're not careful, they will counter. And they will counter hard and score. So it's going to be a tough group all the way around. Again, I think France is the best team in this group. I think they're going to win the group. It all depends on how that first match goes. If they can make it past Australia and make it kind of comfortable for themselves, they're going to not breeze through the group, but they're going to win, and they're going to get themselves a nice 1 seed going into the knockout phase. Second, I think I'm going to go with Denmark. The Aussies just don't have enough talent. The Peruvians, it's their first time in the World Cup for a while, and having to go all the way to Russia, I just wonder if they're going to be prepared for the bright lights. So I'm going to give Denmark the nod here. And quite frankly, I think in this group, match day 1 will tell us everything we need to know, because you get France versus Australia in the first game, and then Peru and Denmark in the second game. And from there, I think we're gonna see something really interesting. I think we'll know how the groups will shake out after that, or how that group will shake out from there. Sorry, I love coffee. Did I mention that? I do. Anyway, moving on. Group D. You always hear about the group of death, right? In the World Cup, they always have one group they call the group of death, where it seems like they stuck 4 good teams in here. This might be it. You've got Argentina, Iceland, Croatia, and Nigeria. From a talent perspective, there's no question Argentina is the best team in this group. They've got, just rewind a few minutes to the Cristiano Ronaldo conversation, and you'll get the same thing here when we talk about Lionel Messi. They've got arguably the best player, and if not a very close second, best player in the world, a guy who's been challenging for Player of the Year for the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Does this sound familiar? It's Messi. And I don't mean the situation's Messi. I mean the soccer player, Lionel Messi. Messi is the kind of guy that can really break a game open for you. You can grab a ball in the middle of the field and slice through some defenders and lay a ball off to somebody, and you've got a goal. Up front, Argentina is going to be tough to handle. They don't even know who they're going to play up front with Messi, because they've got about 4 guys up there that they could play with him. They've got Higuain, they've got Dybala, they've got Aguero. They've got a lot of talent up front. They've got talent on the wings in Di Maria. It's going to be tough to figure out how to stop them. The problem for Argentina is going to be in the back line. They have some solid players, but defensively, the Argentine players never really seem to gel. And they've got a goalkeeper situation. Their number one goalkeeper, Romero, who was so good at the last World Cup in 2014. Remember, this is a team that went to the final and took Germany to extra time in 2014. That goalkeeper is injured and out for this World Cup. So defensively, it is really a concern for Argentina. Hopefully, they can, for their sake, they can put more goals in the back of the net than other teams can score against them. It's going to be that kind of way. And I think they can do it. The problem comes in, there's 2 problems for Argentina. One, they're going to have to play against some teams that are, for lack of a better word, just kind of tough to handle in different ways. So you've got a team like Nigeria, very fast, not terribly skilled from a comparison perspective. They're not as skilled as Argentina, but they're a very fast team with a lot of endurance. They can run up and down that field for 90 minutes. If Argentina can't keep them hemmed in so that they make mistakes and Argentina can score goals, if it becomes an up and down track meet, it's going to be tough for Argentina. Nigeria is the type of team that can wear teams down from a speed perspective, from a physical perspective, not from a talent perspective. They're not the most talented team in the world, but physically and from a speed perspective. On a hot summer day in June in Russia, they are tough to handle. Another team that's tough to handle is Croatia. Again, not as skilled, but a team that is very smart tactically in the middle of the field. They will create fouls. They will slow the game down so that you can't get into your rhythm. They can frustrate a team like Argentina. And then you've got Iceland. Iceland is really kind of new to this whole thing. They hadn't made the World Cup in a while, but they made this one, and they made it quite easily, and they were very good at the last European Championships. So Iceland is an up-and-coming team. They're a good squad. They have a lot of skill, and I think it'll be interesting to see how their defense matches up to Argentina's offense. In the middle of the field is where this game takes place. The Iceland midfielders are very good, and Argentina's going to have to find a way to break through that to get to those forwards and score goals. And then you've got just the other matchups, right? Like how is Iceland and Nigeria going to match up? Again, Croatia and Iceland. Every matchup is going to mean something. I think this is the group of death only because I think every single game in this group, all 6 games, are going to be very, very close, very hard fought. This is going to be the group where I don't care if it's 85 minutes in and it's 1-0 and you think Iceland has won this game. You have to watch it till the end because it's going to be a battle throughout. And it kicks off right off the bat for Argentina against Iceland. I think that's a fantastic matchup. It'll be really fun to watch that one. The other one that you shouldn't sleep on is the last match day, Nigeria versus Argentina. Depending on how the first 2 go, that game really could have a lot of consequences. So this group is going to be very interesting to watch. I had a really hard time not picking second. I went on talent in terms of who I thought would win the group, and I think Argentina will win the group. But second was a little more difficult for me. But I think those kids from Iceland, I think they're for real. What they did at the European Championships and what they did during qualifying tells me they are a for real bunch, and I don't think they're going to shrink to the lights in Russia in the big tournament. So I'm going Argentina 1, Iceland 2 out of Group D. Moving on to Group E, you've got Brazil, Switzerland, Costa Rica, and Serbia. Brazil is head and shoulders the class of this group, and they should advance. I think they're going to advance easily. They've got the first game is tough with Switzerland because Switzerland plays everyone tough. Switzerland is very sound defensively and will make life difficult for them. But I think eventually Brazil will make it through and just they'll beat them. I mean, it's just that simple. But after that, Costa Rica, Brazil, Costa Rica is really, I don't want to say this because it's kind of mean, but it's a mismatch. I mean, Costa Rica just does not have that much talent. Their goalkeeper's really good, and he will be tested. But I think Brazil will blow through them, and Serbia as well. I don't think is good enough really to hang. This tournament, this is where it's a little uncomfortable because this is not a great group to watch. Brazil Switzerland is your first match. That'll be fun to watch, but I think after that, it's Brazil and Switzerland. I think will make it through relatively easily. So I am going Brazil first out of Group E and Switzerland second. Brazil has a ton of talent. The group phase never seems to be the problem for them. It's the knockout phase, and I think they're going to make it through relatively easily, and we'll see how it matches up after that, right? Moving on, Group F, you have Germany, Mexico, Sweden, and South Korea. We have a fair amount of Mexican fans here in the U.S., especially down here in Texas. So there's a lot of focus on Mexico, but they're in a tough draw. South Korea is probably the only easy win in this group, but having to play Germany is not easy, and having to play Sweden is really not easy. Actually, I said that backwards. Having to play Sweden is not easy. Having to play Germany is really not easy. Germany are the defending World Cup champions. And although they're not coming into this tournament exactly firing on all cylinders, this is the kind of team that very much knows how to play tournament soccer, very much knows how to handle group phases and knockout phases, and very much knows how to play in these big situations. This German team is players littered throughout the later phases of the UEFA Champions League. Guys that know how to play on the biggest stage. Mueller has been a little bit off, not his best lately, but is still very good. Toni Kroos comes to them from Real Madrid, who just won the Champions League. They are a loaded team. Their goalkeeping is always fantastic. They are very good. I expect them to make it through this group relatively easily. Really, it comes down to second place. So the key match here is going to be match day 3 when Mexico and Sweden square off. Mexico have to beat South Korea. Absolutely have to. They've got to somehow try to get a point out of Germany. If they can manage a tie with Germany, which I don't think they can, that would be like a win. And then they'd have everything to play for against Sweden. So it's a tough draw for them. The very first match is against Germany, and that's a tough way to start for them. The second match, they maybe pick up some steam while Germany plays Sweden. But that third match is going to be everything to play for. I think that's the match to watch in this group. But in the end, I just don't have any faith in the Mexican team, and I think Sweden is going to come out second in this group. So I'm going Germany 1, Sweden 2 out of Group F. Moving on to our last two groups in the group phase. Group G has Belgium, Panama, Tunisia, and England. I think this one's pretty easy, folks. Belgium is a team that has progressively been getting better at these international events. They did well at the European Championships. They did very well in qualifying. They qualified relatively easily. And they have players that are playing at the highest level of the Champions League, guys that are playing on really big name teams throughout. They've got an excellent goalkeeper in Thibaut Courtois from Chelsea, and they've got Lukaku from Manchester United as a forward who is a scoring machine. He's the kind of guy that can sniff out a ball in front of the goal like nobody's business and puts it in the back of the net routinely. And they've got De Bruyne in the middle of the field. They've got Vincent Kompany in the back. They've got, if you look at their squad, you see a lot of familiar names if you follow European football. And that's a big deal. And not coincidentally, if you follow the Premier League in England, you see a lot of those names from there. Not just around Europe. They seem to be concentrated in England. And oh, look who's in their group. England. So I think they're very well prepared to quite possibly take this group. The match of the group stage is going to be that match day 3 game between Belgium and England. England, I think, are head and shoulders above Panama and Tunisia, and I think they're going to do well. I think it's going to give them a lot of confidence. If they do well against Belgium as well, I think they'll be feeling pretty good about themselves going into the knockout phase. But I still expect Belgium to come out first in that group and England to come out second. And then you've got Group H, probably, I hate to say it, but kind of the forgotten group of the bunch, really, because you don't have any real heavy hitters in here. So you've got Poland, Senegal, Colombia, and Japan. This is a tough call. Poland is a good team. They did very well in the qualifying phase to get to this final tournament of the World Cup. But they really didn't do well at the European Championships. And so, you got to kind of wonder which Polish team are we going to get. Senegal is a team that has done well at the World Cup in the past, but again, not laden with talent, but a lot of discipline and a lot of physicality. So, they're going to be a tough team to match up with regardless of who they play. Colombia might be the most talented team in this group. They've got a lot of good players. The problem with Colombia is they traditionally do poorly in Europe and Eastern Europe. Whenever the World Cup's been over here, they have not done well. And I'm not quite sure what it is. Maybe it's the water. But it's a tough road to hoe for them. The surprise of this group may end up being Japan. I think Japan is going to be a tough pill for anyone to deal with. They're a very talented team. They're a very fast team. And they will give people fits. I think the match to watch in this group will be match day 2, Poland versus Colombia. I think that will tell us where everything's going to shake out. But I'm going a little bit different here. I think this is I'm going with a little bit of a dark horse here. I think Poland will win the group. I think Japan will come in second. So, with that being said, I'm sure that all of you have been jotting down who I have coming in first and second and filling out your bracket. But if you haven't, I will walk you through it. In the round of 16, you've got the winner of Group A against the second place team of Group B. Uruguay versus Portugal is the way I have it set up. A mouth-watering round of 16 matchup. Probably the best round of 16 matchup we're going to see. Actually, as I look down the list, maybe the second best one. Well, maybe the third best. I don't know. There's a lot of good ones here. But I think this is going to be a fantastic matchup. I am putting a lot on Cristiano Ronaldo in this World Cup. He did it at the European Championships, and I think he's going to do it again. He's going to put that team on his back when it gets tough. And it will be tough against Uruguay. Don't get me wrong. It is not going to be easy. But I think Cristiano Ronaldo will prevail and will have Portugal advancing to the quarterfinals. The next matchup I have, the winner of Group C, France, against the second place team from Group D, which is Iceland. Another fantastic matchup. I think this is going to be really good. These two teams are both playing at a very high level in the European Championships and in qualifying. I expect this to be a delicious matchup. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch, but I think France has a little too much, and France will advance. That almost sounds like a rhyme. France will advance. Yeah, but it's not. It's my prediction. Moving on. We've got the winner of Group E, Brazil, against the second place team from Group F, Sweden. I don't think this is going to be much of a matchup. Brazil and Sweden have faced off before, and Brazil have handled them quite easily. And I think they'll do so again. It's just too much firepower on that Brazilian team for Sweden, and I think Brazil will advance. Moving on, you've got the winner of Group G, which is England, against Japan. Wait a minute. Do I have that right? I think, hold on, I may have mistyped. Oh my goodness, I've got this backwards. Hold on. It's Belgium here. Oh, that changes everything. I've got Belgium winning Group G against the second place team from Group H, which is Japan. So this is easy. I think Belgium will win easily. Belgium is a fantastic team. I really expect them. They're a bit of a dark horse. They're not your traditional power that you always hear about on TV. But I think for people in Europe, I don't think there's going to be any surprise here. This Belgium team is really good. And I think they're coming of age just in time for this World Cup. And I think they're going to make a lot of noise. I expect them to beat Japan relatively easily. Moving on, I've got the winner of Group B, Spain, against the second place team from Group A, Russia. Spain versus Russia. I think, unfortunately, this is where it ends for the home team. Spain is just too much for Russia. Spain is really good, and I think they're going to make a lot of noise in this tournament, and this will be a relatively easy win for them. That's just my opinion. Then moving on, you've got Argentina winning Group D against the second place team from Group C, which is Denmark, at least according to me. I think Argentina will win this on the strength of their talent, but it's not going to be easy. And unfortunately, I think this is where it's important, not just that you win, but how you win. I think this could very well be the kind of game that ends up going into extra time, maybe even penalty kicks. And Argentina have to struggle to make it through, while Spain make it through easily against Russia. And it's going to make a difference, and it's going to affect them down the line. And I don't think it's going to be easy. This Danish team is tough and will really give them a run for their money, but I think ultimately Argentina will prevail. Moving on, Germany, the winner of Group F from the second place against the second place team from Group E, which is Switzerland. I think Germany wins this relatively easily. Germany is very familiar with the Swiss team and will be able to handle them quite easily. Germany has too much talent. And then you've got the winner of Group H, which is Poland, against the second-place team from Group G, which is England. This is an intriguing matchup, and I think it's going to be a good matchup. Depending on how England fare in that final game against Belgium, if they are in the game and they are, they come out of it injury-free, card-free, right? Not a lot of guys with yellow cards and red cards and things like that. I think if they come through unscathed, more from a psychological perspective than anything else, I think they'll handle Poland. I think it's important for England to not just get through the group phase, but to play well in that group phase and build their confidence. They've got their first 2 games are relatively easy. Then they play Belgium. I think it's going to be tough, but if they can do well there, I think we could see something special from England, and I think England will topple Poland in this particular matchup. So then moving on to the quarterfinals, you got Portugal versus France. Another, once you get to the quarterfinals, once you get to the final 8, man, it gets nice. I mean, it's a lot of fun here. This is where it's good, and Portugal versus France should be an amazing matchup. But I think Portugal, again, I think Cristiano Ronaldo has really figured out how to lead this team, and I think he is going to take them far. This may be the spot where we see something special from him, like we saw at the European Championships. He will push his team. He will claw and fight and drag his team across the finish line over France. In the next quarterfinal, we've got Brazil versus Belgium. I almost feel like this match is too early. I kind of wish it was a little bit later on. Like, I wish it was a semifinal, really, to be honest with you. I really like this Belgium team. I really like Brazil as well. At the end of the day, I think Brazil's going to be too much. Neymar coming back is a big deal for Brazil. He really is the engine that makes that team go. He should be fresh because he was injured for a while, so he hasn't played a lot of soccer this year. If he can stay healthy through the early rounds, through the group stage, and in the first couple matches, I think there's just going to be a little bit too much. But if we get this matchup, if we get a Brazil-Belgium matchup, man, do not turn off the TV. It'll be up and down the field, and it'll be a ton of fun to watch. But I think Brazil ekes it out. The next quarterfinal, we have Spain versus Argentina. Another just mouth-watering match. This is going to be a lot of fun to watch as well. I just think Spain has too much. And Spain knows how to play in these tournaments. They don't get themselves in tough spots. They don't get red cards. They don't get a bunch of yellow cards. They just keep motoring along. They're very professional in the way they go about it. And Argentina, I think Argentina will struggle with Denmark, and it'll just start to show that grueling group stage. I think the grueling group stage and a tough match with Denmark is going to show here, and you're going to see an Argentine team that is going to have to maybe change their lineup a little bit, may have an injury somewhere, may have to do something because of yellow cards differently, and they're just not going to be at their peak. And against Spain, you have to be at your peak because Spain is just too tough. And I think, unfortunately, this is where the road ends for Argentina and for Messi at the World Cup. I think Spain will advance. And then finally, you've got Germany versus England. It's a shame for England that they have to face Germany this early. It'd be nicer if they had to face them later. But Germany, I can't remember the last time that England beat Germany. I can't remember the last time that Germany didn't just handle them, and I think they'll handle them again. The English team is good, but this German team is a juggernaut. And again, they've got guys that they will not shrink from the lights of a quarterfinals at the World Cup. They know exactly what they're doing here, and it'll be fun to watch. But unfortunately, I think it'll be Germany over England. So now semifinals, we're almost there, folks. Portugal versus Brazil. Too much firepower for Brazil, too much talent all over the field, and Ronaldo's just not going to be able to do it all by himself. And I think Brazil will take it. I think Brazil will beat Portugal and set themselves up for a clash in the finals. They're just too good. They're too good compared to Portugal. it's going to be tough. And then in the other semifinal, Spain versus Germany. This is a tough pick. And this could be the best. This could end up being the best match of the entire tournament. But again, I think Spain is on to something. And I think they're headed somewhere special. They are a very talented team. They play anywhere on the pitch. They play well. They control the ball. And I think they will run the Germans ragged at times. And will really push them to a different place. I think Spain is... I don't even really want to say better because I think they're both so good. But maybe just a little bit better when it comes to this big-time tournament soccer lately. Spain has been on a run the last 10 years that has been phenomenal, and I think they will pull it out. And so that would give us a final of Brazil versus Spain. And if you can't tell by now, I'm pretty high on the Spaniards. I think Spain wins it. Spain, your 2018 FIFA World Cup champions. Sergio Ramos gets to lift another trophy a month and a half after he lifted the UEFA Champions League trophy. I think it's going to be a great matchup. Brazil will play well, and it'll be a great final to watch. If we get that final, we're going to get ourselves a darn good tournament. So those are my predictions. I just walked you through a month of soccer. For those of you that don't like soccer, well, you're probably not listening to this anymore. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. We will get all of Alex's predictions next week on our next show. He will have a little bit of an advantage over me in that they will have already started the tournament, but whatever. We'll give him a little head start and see what he comes up with. We'll see what he thinks about my picks. Hey, if you guys want to share your picks with us, who do you think is going to win the 2018 FIFA World Cup? I'd love to know. You can email the show at positivesports10@gmail.com. positivesports10@gmail.com. If you want to tell Alex, hey, come on, buddy, give me your picks. I want to hear it. You can reach him on Twitter at Brooklyn Gaucho. And if you think my picks are complete hogwash, if you think Iran's going to win it all and you think I'm an idiot for picking Spain, let me know. You can reach me on Twitter also at eMontana21. So, with that, we've come to the final segment of our show, shout-outs. My shout-out today goes to my coach. My coach, Mark Coleman. I told you guys this before, I run with a group here out in Katy, Texas, called Katy Fit. It's part of the USA Fit family. And my coach for, I want to say like 8 years now, has been a gentleman by the name of Mark Coleman. Mark trains, he's the coach of Katy Fit. He's in some other groups as well, and he coaches them. There are some charitable organizations that hire him to coach their groups for their goal races. He is a coach through and through. One of the nicest human beings you'll ever meet. Will give you the shoes off of his feet for you to go for a run. He will run with you no matter how fast or slow you are. He will stay with you as best he can. He's a motivator. He calls me and nags me and tells me to run. Seriously, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. One of my best friends in life. I love him to death. Well, my coach has run the Boston Marathon, but had not qualified in a few years. And was training this year to run a race this weekend up in the Seattle area. And was doing quite well. Was logging a lot of miles, was doing good speed work, was doing the thing. He was looking great. And a couple of weeks ago, the injury bug started to bite him. He had some nagging injuries, and I talked to him, and he was bummed out, and he's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, man, just keep going. Just be smart. If there's anyone that knows how to manage an injury 2 or 3 weeks before a marathon, you're the one. Just do what you teach us to do, brother. Just do what you teach us, and you will be fine. And so off he went to the Seattle area. I talked to him this morning before the race. I said, how you doing? He said, I'm doing all right, man. I'm going to do the best I can. And I said, listen here, man. You can and you will. No. You must qualify for Boston today. This is your day. You've put in the hard work. You've been smart. You deserve it. You deserve it. Go out there for the next 3 hours and get what you deserve. No one's asking you to steal someone else's glory. Just get what you deserve. Man, I can't tell you how happy I was 4 hours later when I got that phone call from my coach. Almost brings a tear to my eye to hear the happiness in his voice. He qualified for Boston by 9 minutes, almost 10 minutes, but he qualified. He is going back to the Boston Marathon. So my shout out today goes to my coach, my very dear friend, Mark Coleman. Congratulations on qualifying for the 2019 Boston Marathon. I love you, man. I told you you could do it, and you did it. I am extremely proud of you, and I can't wait to see you in Boston next year. Absolutely fantastic. Made my day today. Best news I got all day. So, with that, we come to the end of another wonderful episode. I miss my brother. I wish he was here to share this all with me. But I know he's going to watch. Where is he going to watch? He's going to watch on YouTube. Or he might listen to it. He'll listen to it on Podbean, iTunes, Google Play, wherever. But he will pick up episode 21 of the Positive Sports Podcast. And I encourage you to do the same thing. And when you do, subscribe, like, comment, whatever you want. Be a part of the show. We'd love to get your input. We'd love to have you along on this ride. Don't fret. Alex will be back next week. I promise you. I can't do this by myself. It drives me nuts. I love having him here. So, as always, folks, ignore the negativity. Be the positivity. Peace.